Well, here I am jumping on the Kotaku versus Nintendo story bandwagon. This is a big story that everyone has been talking about and everyone is aware of, and lots of YouTubers have already made videos about it. Everyone's been talking about it online in the gaming and the Nintendo space. And I obviously am doing the same because it is an interesting story. I obviously have some feelings and some thoughts on it, so I wanted to throw my own 2 cents into the ring and share my perspective, which I think and I hope will be kind of valuable in the sense that right now I think we see everyone kind of running with their emotions with this story, and they're kind of approaching it through the lens of anger. Everyone's just angry at Kotaku, and everyone is just completely defensive of Nintendo, and ultimately they should be. Kotaku is in the wrong, and there are reasons to be angry with them. I am angry with them as well, and there are reasons to explain why Nintendo is ultimately in the right, and so I feel that that is a big part of this conversation. But I also think there is some other nuance to the discussion and to this situation as it's unfolded that I want to discuss and have everyone consider as you hear me discuss it, because it's almost black and white, but it's not completely black and white. And so that's why I thought it would be interesting for me to also discuss it today. So what's really going on? Like I said, you all probably know the situation already. Kotaku decided to share yesterday on Twitter an article that they wrote basically discussing and posting all of the spoilers from The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which we know the big story this week is the fact that that game, the full game, has leaked online, and it's been posted to Discord servers, and some people have streamed it online, and other people are sharing screenshots or spoilers and knowledge about the game. My last video, I covered this story. I'm obviously not spoiling it for you today because I haven't seen the spoilers myself. I am avoiding the spoilers. I do not want the game spoiled for me, so I couldn't even spoil it for you if I wanted to because I don't even know them. And so Kotaku deciding to share all of these spoilers is an interesting choice. And it should be noted that they're not really technically doing a whole lot wrong, especially as a news outlet. But is it kind of shitty? Yeah. In fact, I would even say it's really shitty. You could even say in a way that it kind of goes against an unwritten code that I think people in the gaming space, whether you're a gaming fan, whether you're a content creator like myself, whether you're a news outlet like a Kotaku, or whether you're the company itself, in this case Nintendo, if you're any one of these tiers of people, you would say, within kind of the gaming space, everyone kind of understands why you really don't want to go out of your way to do that unless you're somebody responsible for leaking something because that's just a crappy thing that you want to do, and you want to ruin the enjoyment for other people on the internet because there just are people out there who like to do that stuff. But of course, this story about Kotaku sharing these Zelda spoilers kind of goes much deeper than that, because there is a bit of a history with Kotaku and Nintendo going back the past 2 or so years, and it all starts with one of my favorite games of all time, Metroid Dread. Very famously, way back in October of 2021, only mere weeks after Metroid Dread released, Kotaku shared an article about Metroid Dread running on emulators, on PC emulators, maybe even the Steam Deck? Good lord, I can't remember 2 years ago. Was the Steam Deck already released by the time Metroid Dread came out? I sure can't remember. Anyway, Metroid Dread was being made available on emulators, and Kotaku shared the fact that it's running on emulators, and the fact that you could go to these locations apparently. I never read the article, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but apparently they also shared where and how you could access it via emulators. And this was, I think, a big deal and felt like a big insult to a lot of fans, myself included, not because any one of us are necessarily anti-emulation. I don't really care about emulating, and I don't care about that stuff. What I did care about was the fact that Metroid is a franchise, as my favorite franchise of all time, that could use the sales. And Metroid Dread represented a very important resurgence for the franchise in a game that needed to perform and do well for the continued health and success of the franchise. So just as fans of gaming and fans of a gaming franchise, you should want to support that aspect of it. And so when you promote the emulation, which in a sense is kind of like pirating the game, and you tell people where to go and how to do it, you're really working against the success of a game and a franchise that needs that success. And so it felt like a stab in the back by Kotaku to do this, not just because, oh, precious Nintendo, protect Nintendo. That wasn't my perspective. For me, and for a lot of people, it was that you're actively hurting the Metroid franchise, and that just sucks. And so not only did that make a lot of fans angry and upset with Kotaku, and really I kind of stopped paying attention to Kotaku in any way, shape, or form at that point. Again, I can't say that they did anything actually wrong. It was more like they did something morally wrong, and something that kind of goes against, you would say, the code in many ways of how I think people should treat stuff in the gaming space. But as a journalism site, I think they technically just reported their own story, and so in that respect, this is the nuance, I don't know that they did anything truly wrong there. And so from there, obviously people looked down on Kotaku for a variety of reasons. It was definitely a bad look for them at that time. And so then we fast forward to this year, and a few weeks ago, Nintendo was holding a preview event for Tears of the Kingdom, and a lot of people in the press, in the media, got to go and play the game, and I think they got to capture footage, and there was a ton of write-ups and preview videos put out there. I didn't look at any of that stuff, but I know that it happened a few weeks ago, and it's very exciting. But Kotaku apparently was not allowed to be involved in it, which a lot of us found pretty funny, and they made sure to complain about it. This fellow Ethan on Twitter shared this tweet: "It's preview day for Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, a huge game I would love for Kotaku to be able to inform its millions of readers about firsthand. Unfortunately, Nintendo still has it blacklisted from advanced coverage, a move I would argue is both unprofessional and coercive." So I really don't think that he's using the word coercive accurately here, but I do understand ultimately what he's trying to say. And I sure don't agree with it. It just sounds like Nintendo made a choice with what they are and are not allowing as far as coverage of their biggest game. Every company does this. It's not just Nintendo, by the way, so this isn't about protecting Nintendo. This is just about a choice being made by a gaming company with their big game. And it's like, look, man, a lot of different outlets and sites, including people that I even know very well in the industry, they got to play the game, they got to cover the game and share their thoughts and previews. Kotaku didn't. And it's probably because, I mean, he uses the word blacklisted here. I don't know if he's specifically referring to Kotaku, but I feel like that's what is happening. It seems like Nintendo didn't invite or allow Kotaku to preview and cover the game. And that's Nintendo's choice as the company developing the game. And maybe Kotaku, you got yourself into some bad blood with this one gaming company, and they have made their own choice without saying anything verbally. It's not like Nintendo has been slinging mud at Kotaku online. They just didn't invite them to play this game and to cover this game. That's a choice they made, very likely because you told people how to emulate one of their biggest games from 2 years ago, Metroid Dread. And so that's, I think, the company's right to say, we don't like how you did something before. You didn't necessarily break the law. Like, they're not coming after you legally. They're just making a choice not to let you play the game because you screwed up and made a crappy choice. And so that's what happens. Which, of course, then brings us to this week when they decided to share all of the leaks from Tears of the Kingdom. And so, again, without knowing anything for fact, no one from either Nintendo side or Kotaku side has said officially how they feel or what's going on. Most of us are smart enough to read between the lines, see what's going on, and clearly Kotaku angered Nintendo by doing something kind of shady and maybe a little bit morally bankrupt with the Metroid Dread thing. Nintendo has decided to essentially blacklist them from covering some of their biggest games, and so Kotaku is firing back by sharing leaks about the game that obviously Nintendo wouldn't want to get out there. And so Kotaku and Nintendo seem to not like each other. The fans, most of us, don't really like Kotaku and don't like the way they're handling this, and so now they're stuck without coverage of the game. And so how do my feelings break down after looking at this whole story and all of this evidence? Honestly, I do think that Kotaku sucks. I didn't like them since the Metroid Dread situation. Honestly, I've never really liked most of their coverage and their article headlines and the content within. They've kind of just seemed like one of those gaming journalist sites that never really worked for me in their entire approach to everything. Doesn't mean they shouldn't exist or whatever, but I just kind of think they're a really scummy, skeezy site, and so I just haven't been a fan of them for a long time. Then the Metroid Dread thing happened. I'm not going to say that they broke the law or whatever. I just think that the way they did it, I didn't like because it hurts my favorite gaming franchise, so I decided to just not pay attention to them. But when I look at everything here, I think that we have to remember that Kotaku or any gaming news journalism website, they don't really owe anyone anything. So provided they don't truly break the law, and I guess you could argue there's gray area when you're sharing something that's leaked, or you're telling people how to emulate something. But I don't really think emulation's not truly against the law. I don't think so. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on that stuff. But at the end of the day, a journalism website only has a responsibility to report the stories that they want to report. And so if they're going to report what's happening with Metroid Dread on emulators, and they want to report about the spoilers for Tears of the Kingdom, they don't owe any video game company or even their readers anything. They can do what they want. That's technically how news is supposed to happen. So that's the bit of nuance I want to add here. They don't truly owe anyone anything, including Nintendo. However, I do think that we have to remember that Nintendo has a right to choose what they want to do with their information and their previews, and they get to choose who they want to work with and who they don't want to work with. If Kotaku does something that Nintendo as the gaming company doesn't like, they get to choose what they want to do going forward. Just like somebody who leaks The Last of Us Part 2, Naughty Dog and Sony can choose not to work with that site or with that YouTuber anymore because they leaked something that Sony wouldn't have wanted to get out there. That's a normal thing. As long as no one's doing anything actively illegal against the other party, it's just two entities making up their own minds about how they feel about the other entity and the information they choose to share. Also, it's worth noting that, and I hate to give Kotaku credit here, but I'm gonna do it. Kotaku didn't share the spoilers publicly. They shared a link to an article that they wrote that contains the spoilers. That is very different than Kotaku's posting screenshots, posting video clips, or even posting text that explains a spoiler, like Link dies at the end, or Demise returns in the beginning, or whatever. You know, if they were to just say that stuff or post videos and screenshots of spoilers, that would be the problem. But they didn't do that. They did just post an article they wrote about the spoilers. So I think we need to pay attention to at least that one thing that Kotaku did that makes it slightly less shitty than if they took the worst route, right? They just shared a link to an article. They didn't publicly post the spoilers. And so I did want to point out at least that. But at the end of the day, man, Kotaku sucks. These guys just suck. They've sucked for years. They sucked in 2021. They suck today. They're gonna suck forever. I don't like Kotaku. I don't think many of you guys do either. And it sure seems like Nintendo doesn't like Kotaku. They've chosen the bad path, you know? They've chosen the dark timeline by choosing, when it comes to Nintendo, at least that's all I've seen, you know, when it comes to Nintendo's games specifically, they've chosen to share ways to access their games that Nintendo wouldn't like. They've chosen to share spoilers from a leak that doesn't really reflect well on the company itself. And so, you know, that happens to other companies too. So I'm not trying to just blindly defend Nintendo, like I said in the beginning. But I think when you just look at the situation, it's pretty obvious why Nintendo doesn't like Kotaku and why Kotaku just chose the wrong choice here. And so it makes them look bad to share spoilers about a game and to share how to emulate and pirate big games right when they release. It's not what people want. It is morally bankrupt. It goes against the kind of unwritten code, I think, within the gaming industry. If we're all fans, you should kind of want the best for the industry and for individual games. And so I think it sucks what they've chosen to do. And so that's why I don't really care about Kotaku, even though I've made a 15-minute video talking about this story. And I recommend you also choose not to care about Kotaku. If you want to find the leaks, you can search them out yourselves on Reddit and on Discord and on the places where they've been leaked. Kotaku going out of their way to make sure people can get their hands on these leaks, it's just a shitty, skeezy, underhanded thing to do. And so, of course, they're blacklisted. Nintendo's not doing anything wrong by choosing not to include you, Kotaku, in their coverage. You've literally done this to yourself. It's just like I joked about last time. Obi-Wan said it best. You have done that yourself. You've made your bed. Now you have to lie in it. You can keep going down this path if you want to. No one's stopping you. You can keep doing what you want, and you can keep running your website the way you want, but clearly Nintendo and other companies are going to respond based on the choices you make. So that's the story. Those are my feelings. Kotaku sucks, and that's about it.